Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of BizJet TV. Today I have David Lawrence with me from Oklahoma City, and David's got an incredible business story, and he also owns a bunch of jets. So he's going to tell us how he got into the business side of aviation. David, welcome to BizJet TV.
Thanks, Fab. Great to be here. Good to catch up with you again.
So David, tell us your story growing up and then how you made that decision to become a dentist and set up your own dental practice, and then that brought you to private jets. Tell us a story.
Yeah, so I'm from a smaller town in Oklahoma, and I went to dental school at the University of Oklahoma. Graduated dental school, came out, started having some success, and I've always been obsessed with kind of being able to have my own plane, control my own schedule. And so I got started there, started flying in a Baron first about 3 or 4 years ago with the charter company that we eventually bought. So I got started with a smaller plane, but I got a taste of what it was like, and I knew that the owner was looking to sell. He's, about 65. So I started thinking about it, and I said, well, if he's thinking about selling, this Baron, which I ended up purchasing actually, I kind of saw it writing on the wall. I figured if someone sold it, they weren't going to keep the Baron on charter. And so I said, well, maybe we'll start looking at buying the company and figuring out, hey, maybe I can offset costs of flying, things like that. And so it started there, and just kind of, I grew a relationship with the owner, and just kind of became infatuated with the whole process. So here we are now, a year later, after we purchased the 135, and we've added a couple planes, and so the journey continues.
Yeah. So when you started flying private, were you using it for business, or were you using it for pleasure, or a combination of the two?
Combination. We do a lot of personal traveling for business as well, and so I would say 75% personal, 25% business.
Okay. So how did COVID and the lockdowns play into your decision about flying private?
Well, I think everyone experienced it during COVID. It was just, you start sitting at home and you're thinking about, well, where can we go? Okay, the airlines are a bit of an issue. It's a big problem to try to get on a commercial flight wearing masks with your kids. It's just a huge issue. And so that definitely exacerbated the problem and got me thinking more and more about private air travel.
Yeah. So tell me a bit about the business side, the business usage for you as a dentist of private aviation. What kind of trips were you doing for business? And obviously you used Iron initially, and then I know you bought a Lear 45. We'll get into the Lear 45 a bit later, but tell me more about the Baron, because this is an interesting thing. People always think about flying private. They think about the jets, but there's also the smaller airplanes that can be used. So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so it started with the Baron and twin engine piston, and I do a lot of continuing education for dental stuff, and so we were flying around the Baron doing that, and so that's where it started. Like I said, we would probably fly once or twice a month for business on the Baron. And a great plane, but you start thinking about, well, maybe I can go a little faster, get a little bigger,
yeah.
And so yeah.
So where were you going with the Baron? Was it trying to get into shorter airports, shorter runways? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
More regional. Obviously, we're Oklahoma, a lot of Texas, a lot of Colorado, some Kansas. So not long trips, shorter trips. Yeah, definitely smaller airports as well.
So were you going to learn more about dentistry, or were you going to teach about dentistry?
Both.
Both. Okay. Yeah. So you're teaching other dentists and you're learning from other dentists. And so you're using the private aircraft for that. Okay, so then you buy AmericanJet Charter, which had been run very well by Jim and his team, and then you buy a Lear 45. What made you buy the Lear 45?
Well, started with the Baron, and there was some other jets in the fleet, and I flew on those, and it really just sparked my interest. And you start running the numbers with these jets, and you start thinking, okay, if I buy this jet, can I make some money off of it? Can I pay for my own flying? So that's kind of where it started. Where you know how expensive it is to buy a jet, have all the maintenance costs, have all the pilots on staff. And so by doing that, and the depreciation helps as well, you start to think about, hey, how can I not only not have to pay for my flying, but maybe make some money and I still get to fly private. So,
yeah. And the depreciation is something that people don't think about, but it does really help. In particular, in the US, you can do that. Other parts of the world, depreciation of the asset, in this case of an airplane, you can't really factor it in tax-wise. But in America, you've got a system which allows you to do that. Has that really helped in paying for all the costs?
Well, definitely. So with the Baron, obviously, it's not going to be as big as cost as the Lear was in 2024, but just seeing that back in 23 on the Baron and the depreciation I was able to take at 80% that year was significant. And so obviously with the Lear is more expensive. And unfortunately with 2024, I believe it was 60% for depreciation. It continues to go down.
Yeah.
So yeah, significant help with that. But depreciation is great, but you also have to look at, I know I'm going to save on taxes, but am I going to make some money? Am I going to be able to pay for my flying through supplementing charter?
Yeah. So how's that working out now with now that you own the charter company, and so you're now not only involved in dental business, but you're also involved in the private jet charter business. Tell us a bit about your fleet and how things are going, what type of clients are flying with your airplanes, how you guys are still using the airplane as well, or airplanes.
Yeah. So since 2020, we saw a lot of leisure travel pick up.
Mm-hmm.
We are seeing more business travel pick up in the past 6 months to a year. So I'm interested to see over the next coming years if that's going to continue. I think people are kind of they want to see people in person again, and so I think that's going to continue to pick up.
So
We've got two turbo.
What do you think the split is between business travel and leisure travel right now, at least with your company?
With our company, I would say 70 or being 70%.
That's interesting. Yeah, because it used to be around, and then after COVID, it's switched.
I think the business travel is picking back up again.
Oh, so you think you're going to a 60-40, 60 leisure, 40 business?
I hope so, because it's really nice to have these businesses, especially local businesses, that use us and having that relationship on a consistent basis.
So what airplanes do you have in the fleet right now?
So we got two turboprops, King Air 350 and King Air 90. We still have the Baron.
Yeah.
And then we have two jets. We have a Citation Encore, and then like you aforementioned, the Learjet 40.
Yeah. So that's a nice fleet, a nice variety of airplanes there, which caters for a number of different types of clients. So where do your clients typically go to in these airplanes? And do they charter just one type of plane, or do you find one client using different airplanes according to wherever they're going?
Well, specifically with the Learjet, we find that if they're already in the Bombardier family, say they have even a Global Express or a Challenger, say their plane is down for maintenance, or they need to get into a shorter airport, they're going to take the Lear. There has been people that like the Baron. It's economical for them, and the King Airs are great too. So typically, if they start with the King Air, they like to stay with that. But if they start with the jets, they tend to stay with the jets.
Yeah. But do you have any jet people flying in the Baron as well?
Typically not. No, typically once they get a taste of the jet, they're not going to do the Baron.
But you'll have a Baron person end up going with a jet, probably.
So yeah. But sometimes if they travel by themselves, and we have someone who goes to Florida on a consistent basis, he'll take the Baron. If he's one or two people, I know it's a longer trip, but it's not a bad trip by yourself.
Yeah, but even where you guys are, like, if you have to go to Dallas, you might as well go in the Baron. It's going to be much different. And the economics of flying in the Baron compared to the Lear or the Encore, it makes sense to use these smaller aircraft. Also, the weather up where you guys are most of the time is good enough to be able to go in a propeller airplane, at least an airplane which stays low level. So there are advantages also of using these other aircraft. You don't necessarily have to buy a jet. Depending on where you are and where you're going to go, it does make sense. So you're saying that the business is picking up and more people now starting to travel for business. That's interesting that you find that trend on the increase. A lot of your flights originating from Oklahoma City, or are you having to position elsewhere?
Typically, all ours are going to originate from Oklahoma City, and they're going to return within 3 or 4 days. Sometimes our clients choose to keep the plane there just for an economical perspective. But typically, we don't like our planes out for more than 5 days. They come back to Oklahoma City. A lot of that stems from, as a maintenance protocol. We want to make sure that maintenance is staying up. And maybe in the future, we might have our planes go on the road a little bit more. But for right now, we're sticking with our model that's worked for years.
Yeah, and that is an important factor. You've got a company that's been, around over 30 years, is that correct?
Yeah.
No incidents, no accidents, which is very rare in the private jet industry. So that really, really is good. But you said something really important about the maintenance being always done in the same place. And this is something where, when you charter a jet, some of these airplanes don't have a base and they're just flitting from one place to another. And then the maintenance is done by 10 different people in 10 different ways. And this has an effect on the quality of the maintenance. So tell me more about, your maintenance team and how things are done over at AmericanJet.
Yeah, so we have head of maintenance who's been there for over a decade. He's been great. He understands that if he needs to stay till midnight for a trip that's going to happen the next day, he's going to stay. But he needs to come in on Christmas. It has to happen because these planes have to, be worked on. They have to be safe. So in order for our clients to take them, very, very important. And I didn't understand that until I got into this business, how critical that is to make a 135 work, because there's nothing worse than, getting a call from a pilot the day of, hey, we have this issue. Well, if you have a mechanic that you trust is going to be out there and work on the plane to make sure it flies, then that is critical.
Yeah. Now let's talk about pilots, guys you have there. how you found them, the training and that, the safety aspect, which again, you've never had an incident, never had an accident in over 30 years. And that's remarkable because, as I always say, and I say in my book, The Quantum Economy, that unfortunately the private jet industry has a safety record 10 times worse than the airlines. But in your case, you've actually had no incidents and accidents in 30 years, which is remarkable. So tell us a bit about the pilots that you hire and how you go about the pilot training as well.
I think it stems from our former owner and now our director of operations. Like you said, perfect safety record. It starts with him. He vets all these pilots. He understands, hey, what are the limitations? What's not going to work? Why are they going to be successful? And so I think from his leadership perspective and the safety, that's been critical because he's able to vet these pilots in, figure out, hey, is this going to work for us? And is this going to continue on our safety record? It really does. It starts with Jim, the way we hire our pilots.
So obviously in private jet operations, the technical aspect of the pilot is important. How important is the personality of the pilot and the character?
Critical. So, as you know, this is a team effort. And so if you have someone who is maybe doesn't have the grit, maybe doesn't have the team perspective, it becomes an issue. You have our dispatchers and things like that have to deal with the pilots. And maybe sometimes there's an issue that, the plane is safe to fly. It's not an issue, but the pilot feels like it needs to be an issue and needs to create a stress among the team. And so it really is still a team effort, and that's been a challenge for sure.
Yeah, and that's an important element that they fit in character-wise as well as from a technical aspect. Is really, really important.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
And just looking up to Jim in that mentorship role, I think that's critical. When you have someone who has been flying for 50 years, has basically seen everything under the sun as far as airplane issues, it's important to have someone to look up to. And so that's what, with Jim.
Yeah. And you've kept him on board, which has been wise with the record that he has. I think that's really, really important. So where do you see this industry going? Now you've been in the industry over a year. What have you learned as you come into this industry, coming from the dental world? What differences have you seen? What similarities have you seen? And where do you see things going in the future?
Well, I think business travel, leisure travel is going to continue to grow. The private aviation sector is going to continue to grow. And you can already see that with, maintenance shops. Maintenance shops can barely keep up with the demand. And so we know from that private air travel is continuing to increase and usage is going to continue to increase, especially with commercial airlines being the way they are, and really no improvements going to be made there. And so this industry is going to continue to grow. And with our 135, we feel like we have a really main ingredient to continue to grow our brand, maybe into buying and selling, maybe into maintenance. And so it's just going to continue to grow over the next, 5, 10, 20 years.
Yeah. You guys are located in Wiley Post Airport there in Oklahoma. We met a few months ago when I came to visit you. How is the local economy growing, and how do you see private jet travel grow within your community and the location where you guys are?
Yeah. So I know you've seen over the past 10 years a migration from California to Nevada, Arizona to Texas now.
Yeah.
I don't have the exact numbers, but I am seeing a lot of people move from Texas to Oklahoma or from the east and west coast of Oklahoma because of cost of living. So, you have a lot of people that, are wealthy individuals. They see that Oklahoma is a great place to live. So they're coming to a central part of the country. And so we have more tech companies coming in. Oil and gas is very important in our state, but as we continue to grow, other industries are starting to come in and bring in more money and people that want to fly private.
Yeah. And of course, now the political scenario in America has changed with the new administration, which is pro-drilling oil. I should imagine that the oil and gas industry will expand over the next 4 years, which will help probably create more jobs, more expansion, so maybe more need to travel. And of course, technology with Elon Musk there.
Yeah, I know. You never know what that's going to do.
Yeah. So how do you think those two things are going to play into you guys picking up more charters and maybe more aircraft to manage?
Yeah. So with the oil and gas continue to grow, especially like you said with the administration, that's going to be key because a lot of these people, even though they might have offices here in Oklahoma City, they're going to Texas, Louisiana, Ohio for their companies. And so they don't want to take commercial airlines, especially if they have to connect somewhere. So as these companies continue to grow during the administration, they might need to buy a jet or, buy a turboprop. And so we're hoping that we can seize that opportunity to grow our company and obviously help them with their companies as well.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting point there because if you lived in Dallas, Dallas is a main hub for the airlines. So it's easy to get anywhere because you'll get a direct flight. But out of Oklahoma City, there aren't as many direct flights to certain locations. So you're right. You probably have to go. When I flew out of Oklahoma City back to England, I had to go via Dallas. There was no direct flight to Manchester in the UK from Oklahoma City. So, that is another advantage, your location. And with the local economy growing, with the tech space and the oil and gas, those guys are going to have to go to certain locations. And with your private jet, they can go straight there and straight back. And, every time you have to stop off somewhere in another airport, things can go wrong. Flights get delayed, bags get lost, flights get cancelled, all sorts of stuff can go wrong.
It's a mess.
Yeah, it's a mess. But if you can, fly out of Oklahoma City direct to Tampa, Florida, for example, where I know there's no direct flight to Tampa from Oklahoma, you can go out and come back same day, and you control the airplane, the time it leaves, and there's a great advantage and time-saving opportunity there by flying private.
Absolutely. We have a lot of clients that go to Midland, Texas. And so Midland is, I think it's around 500 miles away. To get there from commercial, you have to go, and Southwest doesn't go to Dallas anymore out of here.
Okay.
So trying to get to, somewhere that should take you maximum 2 hours to get to, you have to connect somewhere. And so it makes sense to, like you said, talked about the Baron, the turboprops. It makes sense from Oklahoma City to Midland for a company like that.
Yeah, and that's another thing which people need to understand. A lot of people, when they see a propeller on an airplane, they get scared. They think, oh, they're dangerous. But no, propeller aircraft, in particular, on flights under 500 nautical miles, they're a lot more economical than going in a jet. Because, jet and a turboprop on a 500-mile trip pretty much get there at the same time. But, the turboprop is going to cost you a lot less. Or flying the Baron. If it's 150, 200 miles away, going the Baron. It's a lot more economical.
Exactly.
It may be a little bit more of a bumpy ride because you're flying lower level, but you'll get there in and out quick. It's more affordable, and you save stacks of time. And as you said, showing up is half of the battle won. And more people now want to meet face to face. Yes, you can do the Zoom calls, but you get to a point where you need to meet in person. And that is so important. So let's talk about the future for AmericanJet, the future of this business. Where do you see things going in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, like we talked about before, the private aviation sector is going to continue to grow. And so with our company, we want to find that sweet spot for our 135 customers. And I don't know if we'll get to that point of, where we get huge with the 135, but we want to make sure we're adding more management underneath our wings. And so we want to find a sweet spot for those number of planes, but also with AmericanJet, we want to continue to, grow our company through other ways, maybe buying and selling aircraft, which obviously you have clients come in, maybe have under management, maybe they're chartering their plane out, buy and sell their aircraft for them, or we can have the maintenance leg where we have our own maintenance shop for our customers, or we can bring some outside planes in and specialize maybe in some type of plane and grow that sector as well. So like we talked about before, it's going to continue to grow. Number of aircraft, aging aircraft is going to continue to grow. And so we really feel like we're in a good position, maybe buying and selling aircraft and then maintenance as well.
Yeah. So what value add does your company bring to a customer that's got an airplane to manage compared to maybe the competition out there? What would you say if I had my own airplane and you were pitching me, say, bring your airplane, Fab, for me to manage? I mean, what edge would you guys have compared to maybe other outfits out there that do the same thing?
Well, when you bring your aircraft to us, I feel like the number one priority is a relationship, and a relationship that you trust. I've just heard so many stories about plane owners going to a specific company and things are just not done well. They're getting improper, the accounting's not being done properly, maintenance is not being done properly. So with our company, we're going to get that done. We're going to do the right thing. We're going to make sure all the numbers are correct. And just a trustworthy relationship is the most important thing.
Yeah. And just touching on that point, we had a discussion a few months ago about this G4SP that I just sold. And you guys put a very nice management contract together. I put it in front of the owner. He went with another company, and the reason for going with the other company is because they cost less.
Yeah.
Guess what's happening there? The pilots haven't yet been hired. He's now having to hire some contract pilots, which are costing him $2.50 a day per pilot. That's going to run for probably 2 to 3 months while these guys get trained. He wants pilots with the airplanes at all time, and the plane flies around the world. So, 30 days at $5,000 a day times 90 days, that's a lot of money that he could have saved. And I told him, I said, there's a reason why these people cost less, and they're gonna milk you in some shape or form to get the money that at least the other guys are being honest and charging you up front because, that's what it costs to manage these airplanes. So if they're trying to come in low to get business from you, they're going to have to come up with some stories to make up for the money they're losing. And in the end, make money. And unfortunately, this happens all the time in this industry. A lot of management companies are not transparent. and they milk these owners as much as they can. And at the end of the day, it's the owner that loses out on this. And, the fact that you guys are being very transparent. And the other factor, I think, is your safety record. And the way you have produced that safety record, I think is also another great advantage that you guys have. Because, as I said, the safety record is 9.2 times worse than the airlines. The numbers are there. Speak very clearly. You're paying 15 times more money to fly private than flying first class, and you're risking your life 10 times more. No, that doesn't quite, it's not worthwhile paying that price. But if you can fly with a private jet company that actually have a safety record with no incidents and accidents for over 30 years, now we're onto something. Now
That's right.
That issue. And now, you have really got the edge.
And, you ask, how could we differentiate ourselves? Well, just talk to our current plane owners. How are they being treated? Are they happy with us? Obviously, they've been on with us for a long time. So the proof is in the pudding there.
Yeah. That's very good. David, anything else you'd like to tell our viewers before we close here about your experience and your ride here into private aviation and that before we close?
Yeah, so it's been a year now since we purchased the company. It's been interesting. You see the glitz and glamour of private aviation, and then you get into this industry and you really start thinking about things, and there are some ugly sides of it. It's a difficult industry sometimes.
Yeah, it is, yes.
It's very cutthroat, but with our company, we feel like we've had a great past. We've got great clients, and we're really in a great position to grow. I really feel positive about it, and we feel like our position, especially at Wiley Airport, Wiley Post, is going to continue to grow. I feel like people are starting to see what we're about. They're seeing the plane owners that are happy with us, our management, our 135. So really, it's been a challenge for the past year, but I think we're going in great directions, and we're really going to have a legacy in Oklahoma, and we're excited about it.
David, thank you very much for being here on BizJet TV. Guys, click on the link below to go to David's website. And if you're interested in charters out of Oklahoma City, David and his team can help you. If you're interested in management, we can help you with that too. And
Absolutely.
That's all for Fabrizio here on BizJet TV, and see you in the next one.